Welcome to Ask the Expert, an award-winning daily series from 8:30 till 9 a.m. to help small businesses like yourselves. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments in the live feed. But if you want more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are all there 24/7 up through the night. During the live session, we'll be running a poll too. So really, really useful if you can engage with that, and I'll reveal the results at the end. So who am I? Well, I'm Katy Howell. I am a marketeer with about 30 plus, without giving away my age, years of experience. But 20 years ago, I launched a social media agency called Immediate Future, and we're still here, having evolved from blogs and message boards and MySpace, if anybody remembers that, all the way to today, where we're doing everything from unraveling social data through to working out how to do your paid social. And today, I want to talk about supercharging your social. And part of the reason I want to discuss that is that using social media for growth works. But, and there's a very, very big question mark over this, what you find is there is an awful lot of advice out there that is kind of growth hacks and fast and quick ways to get you more followers and do all these things that will supposedly help you grow your social media accounts or grow your business, which is really what you want to do. So I want to talk through sort of 10 or so tips that says, look, hold on a second, because if you can find yourself rushing after all these growth hacks and rushing from this thing to the next and never any time. So I want to talk through some bits. The first bit is social for growth. What does that really mean? What it doesn't mean is vanity metrics. And what I mean by vanity metrics is numbers of followers is kind of irrelevant. I'll explain a little bit later now. But what really matters is the impact it has on your business. So one of the challenges of rushing after social, everything feels so immediate, doesn't it? It's just like, oh, I need to do this. And oh my God, that's trending. Slow down and think about the goal you want to achieve. Do you need to sell more product? Do you need to build trust? Do not enough people know about you. You need to set your goals from the outset that are going to have an impact on your business and stop rushing down that road for social media goals. So having a plan. So set your goals and then slow down again. It's a common theme. Slow down for social. Have a plan. Know what you're trying to achieve. Because one of the big challenges is people tend to go on every single channel out there and they're putting the same content out on everything because they haven't got time for anything. So slow down and say, what are you trying to achieve? And that brings us to a really chunky bit of thinking, which is knowing your audience. So where is your audience playing? Are they on TikTok or are they all on Instagram? Start exploring where they're spending time and what they're talking about, and go beyond the kind of demographics. I target 16 to 18-year-olds. Well, on social, it really doesn't matter about age ranges. What you should be looking at is behaviors. Once you have an idea of who your target audience is and where they sit on social, there's a really big question you need to ask yourselves, or maybe get family, friends, colleagues involved, which is, why does this matter to this audience? And you might find yourself with different audience segments. But if you don't ask yourself the question, why, or what is the shopper mission? What is the intention of my customer when they're ready to buy? Is this impulse and luxury? So therefore, the why will be because this is held in high standing and it means something in terms of status to them. Or is the why that they're passionate about crafting, and so part of that why is doing something that involves doing the best they can in crafting, learning a new skill, for instance. You need to think about the why. And the reason is that it is not good enough anymore in social. It's so noisy after the last 2 years where we've all turned to social to help our businesses. that it's so noisy that there isn't, you haven't got time to just go buy me. Just it just doesn't work. You won't get the cut through. So what you really need to do is speak to your audience. And that means quality, which is point number 4, quality over quantity. So we tend to think, and there's lots of growth hacky advice that looks at, oh, you need to do 1,000 pieces of content a day or a week or whatever ridiculous thing. You don't. Please don't worry about the frequency of your posting. What you should be thinking about is, what are you posting? What's the quality of that? Is it going to sit on here and be thumb stopping? Is it going to have that bit where your audience is immediately engaged? So it's much more investment in the post rather than producing huge amounts of posts. So think about quality over quantity. As I said, don't go for the sale. And one of the reasons why it's very tempting, isn't it, to say, buy this now, click on here, buy from my Etsy store, or whatever it is that you're doing. But the problem is that we have a bit of a challenge coming down the road with the rise of D2C, that's direct to consumer. With the rise of D2C, we've got a real challenge, which is trust. And our audiences are wanting to check out who they're buying from. It's the international stage of social media that has meant that a few scammy, horrible, poor quality retailers have got in the way. So whether you're in B2B or in consumer, the audience in Europe is slightly more skeptical. So you need to develop brand. And this is something you always think the big companies do, but you really need to have that kind of personality or brand that means that you're trustworthy, and it needs to connect up with everything out there. Then you need to understand the platform dynamics, a unique approach for each platform. I kind of mentioned that before, which is, not all platforms are the same. And it's more than just, Instagram's for pictures and TikTok's for video. And it's more than that. It's the behavior of your audience on each of those channels. And you need to understand what each channel's purpose is for you and write accordingly. And this seems like a huge amount of effort, but the reality is that this is how people are buying. And if people are buying this way, if they are understanding how they can help to how you can grow your company, and people are buying this way, you have to meet those expectations. The next point, which most small businesses absolutely hate me for, I'm really sorry, but you have to do paid social, and you have to do really thoughtful paid social. The reason for doing paid is that you really can't afford to be strangled. This is why chasing likes on Instagram and Facebook are fairly pointless, because Instagram and Facebook don't serve your organic posts to the whole of your audience. They will only serve it to 1 or 2% of your audience. So you have to use paid. And that means being smart about your targeting. It's about creating more than one ad set. There is a whole nuance to maximizing and optimizing the opportunity on paid. So don't disregard paid. That kind of brings me quite nicely to and measure and optimize. So no campaign ever sits still. 1 minute we're talking Halloween, the next minute we're talking about Christmas, and I promise you behaviors change really quickly. So optimize and measure the whole way through. Finally, and you're really not going to, so not only not liking me because of paid, not only liking me because I'm telling you have to, focus on quality, but you need to be patient. In building a brand that people trust, it takes time for the results to show. So keep plugging at it, and it can take months. 6 to 12 months is the average. So look at the long term, because once you establish yourself, once you are trusted, once the brand is working, I promise you'll know exactly how to trigger those sales or build your business or build your reputation, whatever it is your goal is. So thank you very much for listening to me. I hope that was helpful. I downloaded basically a whole social media plan at you. So I'm going to take some questions. So Chris from Instagram says, is organic social media a myth? It seems like my engagement rates have dropped more and more, and now even less than 1%. Chris, you are spot on. I kind of touched on that. I'm not surprised. I mean, there's two reasons for it. There's the very cynical view you can take, which is all the platforms want you to run paid because they can make some money. That's a very cynical view. But actually, I would like you to put your social media user head on as a person, a real human being, which is how you feel when your feeds are flooded with kind of, business by me organic content. How you feel is bad enough getting adverts, isn't it? So one of the challenges that Facebook and Instagram and to a certain extent even TikTok, all the way down to TikTok, which you think we'd all love, one of the challenges that they face is that we have real problems with the fact that users don't want to see it and they complain a lot. So in a way, the platforms are just doing what their real customer wants, what the end user wants, which is not to serve so much. And so in order to kind of lower the number of posts that you get as a consumer, they are actually making brands pay for it. So two ways of looking at it. So Claudia from Facebook Messenger says, I've heard that post frequency is important for driving brand recall, but if that's the case, do you have any advice on how we can make good branded content at volume while avoiding repetition? Now, this is a lovely one, Claudia, because this is typically a misshapen view that is based in really good foundations. So if you do your KIM, Chartered Institute of Marketing qualifications, back in the 90s, like me, you had a very simple thing, which is repeating messages. So repeating messages are awesome. But let me think. Mash means smash. Heinz, what's it? Beans means Heinz. I can't think of them now. Bovril families. It's when you think about it, and in fact, the more you think about some of the older brands, you'll recognize, it's good to talk. As I start going through these, the little jingle for the Intel in your machine, I can't remember the tune now off the top of my head, but you'd recognize it and you immediately associate it with the brand. So actually, there's a thing about frequency of message. And one of the problems we have with social is people jump between different, buy me because we're quality, buy me because we have lots of staff, buy me because we're good on delivery, which is 100 million messages, and unsurprisingly, none of them really land. So here's the key. It's not the frequency of posts, it's the sticking to the message and continuously talking about that message. Now, you don't need a jingle, but what you need to do is consistently, we are all about the brand that's quality. So that's what we're going to hang our messaging on. And that matters more than the numbers of pieces of posts. So what makes things memorable? Just having them shoved in your face? Do you think that works? Because I don't know about you, but I automatically ignore the stuff at the top of my screen and the side of my screen because I've gotten so used to that being ad space. So I don't even look at it. I just look at the article, whereas I've come to the website for. So I think you really need to step back and say, how do you manage this so that you're actually doing something and the content, not the frequency, the content not only says the message, but is memorable. So it's quality content that your audience will remember. So that's your key. It's understanding the brand messaging and the frequency of messaging, not the frequency of posts. So I hope that I've made that clear. And early in the morning, I might have got a bit confusing. So Lynn from Twitter says, TikTok has exploded in the last year. Boy, has it. But I don't know how we can make it work for our business. We're a small fintech startup. Any pro tips on what types of content we should try? So there are a few B2B brands. I think you need to think about the audience there. So if you go to TikTok for Business, you can start to investigate who's there. Now, of course, there's lots of youngsters, but there isn't only youngsters. You may think of this as talent acquisition. You may want to think of this as getting people, I don't obviously know your business in terms of fintech, but getting people in at the ground floor of the purchase decision. If your decision-making unit may include the people that you can find on TikTok. And there are 2 or 3 ways in which you can do this. One is, of course, create your own TikToks. But that's quite a challenge for many brands. So it could be, for instance, part of your graduate program. So if you, I don't know, I don't know how you operate, but you may have some interns and graduates which are become part of that whole graduate program. But the other really clever way in which TikTok make it easy for you is that you can put out do something around this, and you can access a whole load of creators. Now you pay a small amount, but it's not masses, and those creators will make the TikToks for you. But the key to this is whether or not your audience is there. And that, it's very tempting with B2B, for instance, to think it's all in LinkedIn. But again and again, we show that quite often decision makers are hanging out on Tumblr, or they're on Twitter because they want to follow the news, or they're on Instagram. And one of our big tech brands that we work with, for instance, gets amazing brand and awareness results that drive through the funnel to business through Facebook. So don't make sweeping judgments. Go check out who's on that profile. So Penny from Facebook Messenger says, my social media team always seem to be stretched and in need of additional resource. Currently, I have a manager, content exec, and community exec. What sort of team structure do you recommend, and how can these flex for different needs? Oh, Penny, when I started, we used to just have one social media manager. And even now, and I've always thought I'm quite a bright individual. Oh my God, I can't hold it all in my head. So we have insights, so the data, which is a totally different view because you need to understand behavioral trends. You need to understand statistical algorithms. We have an organic team who manages the kind of project. We have a creative studio, because even knowing the trends in creativity in terms of how videos are constructed with, we need a very fast grab of attention. And then we have paid experts, because paid is getting so sophisticated now that you really need to understand all of that. And then we have people like me who help out with the strategy. Now, one of the challenges you have in a smaller team is getting all of that in there. You're doing the right thing, I would say. You're doing the right thing because you've got more than one person. Anybody who's got one person is absolutely just scratching the surface of social media right now. So you're already in a good place. What I suggest you actually do is plan this to death. You should know what's coming down that track, because once you plan, you'll know the volumes and the quantity, understanding how much feedback you're getting, so how much community management is actually required, and where the hiccups are. You have to unpick this to understand for you what you need. You may find that one of the big challenges is it isn't just that you've got social media managers, but they're using Canva, which is great, but that takes hours of their work. So should you be having a designer in-house, or should you use an agency, or whatever it is? So you have to plan this out. One of the problems we have with social is that quite often people just put their fingers to the keyboards and get on with it. What they don't do is plan it out. Once you plan it out, you'll work out where your gaps are, and you'll be able to see what's feasible and not. So it is a bit of an exercise. Ruth says, there's so much data on social that it's hard to know what to focus on. How can we make a better understanding of customer habits and use that data to make content they value? Oh, I'm with you, Ruth. Now, we use tools like Brandwatch and Global Web Index, and there are a number of tools out there, but of course, they do cost. And this is our unerring challenge, which is social is not free on any level. Any more than TV advertising is, or billboard advertising, or getting the gondola ends on a retail store. All of these things cost you money because they help market your brand. But there are a few things you can follow. For instance, the Brandwatch blogs. Nearly all of Sprout Social, for instance, does lots of insights. It is very hard when you don't have a large budget. One of the things you can do is segment your audience by what you know about them, and then trial and test. So make your test a very organized affair. So I'm going to test that who I think are mums are going to be super interested in buying cereal that's organic, right? I'm going to test this. So now what you do is you run with your messages across that kind of organic and wholesome and blah, 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 blah. You run the campaigns in very specific places you think those mums are going to be interested in. Then you measure the hell out of it, and you measure everything, because you may find where you don't see engagement, for instance, you see search demand. So you see people looking for the product. So you need to balance the two. So I hope that helps. But the reality is you have to pay for data these days. Vishen from Facebook Messenger says, does following trends and jumping on new formats not distract the team from our main business goal? How do we keep track of these things, but know when it's appropriate to take part? Yes, and yes, Vishen. Yeah, I don't know if I have a really honest answer to this, because we're just as guilty of going, oh my God, we could do this now, rushing off down the way. Oh, new shiny. So I'm not sure we're much more helpful, but having things like message filters, and what we do is we create frameworks which say, if this content fits into this, so if National Cookie Day, right? It's National Cookie Day. That's a trend. Everybody's talking about cookies. Do we as a brand, or do our clients as a brand, have a right to talk about this? And so we create a filter that forces us to say, has this got value for the customer? And frankly, Immediate Future is a social media agency. Talking about cookies is kind of irrelevant. So that's the only way to do it, is filter it and then be very disciplined. Sunil on Twitter says, can I mention competitors in product marketing? Would you recommend this? Not really, no. I mean, that's not a social question, that's a marketing question. Oh, it's so dangerous. I mean, sometimes you see it between the grocery stores, like Sainsbury's and Lidl, having a poke at each other. You could end up in litigation for defamation. What you can do is be very surreptitious about it. You could say we're cheaper than other brands, or we're more quality, or we're blah, blah, blah than other. But I would never go down this kind of bashing another company. Do you know what? Consumers and customers are fairly wise, and they tend not to look on it favorably. So where are we now? So Leo on Facebook message says, we have a media buying team who manage all paid activity, but this means that paid doesn't actually sit with the social team. Oh my God, I hear this all the time, Leo. Because of this, I sometimes see a misalignment between what's happening organically versus paid. Yes, please bring it back together. It is a total nightmare that this is operated in this weird programmatic performance way over here. The reality is you are really close to customer behaviors. You're seeing what's actually trending in your own channels via organic. So I think there's several things, which is the content that's really working, and you can then take that content and redeploy it through paid. The second is that you can use multiple ad sets and work out more than just how many people click on something, because you can start to look at engagement rates and reflect that back into organic. There is no two ways about it. We strongly believe you should not separate the two. But we know why it happens. It is quite difficult to have both a creative, organic copywriting head on one side and then a paid and mathematical and optimizing head on the other. But bringing the two teams together would be way better, and they should all be run via social. So bullish, Katy, this morning. Isaac has asked, is outsourcing social media to an agency better than trying to build a team internally? And if it's a mix of both, what should the agency be doing versus the internal team? Okay, so I'm biased, so let me be really honest. It really depends. For many people, bringing the skills inside has cost efficiencies, but it also has headcount, which you have to worry about, and management and culture and employee benefits and value and all these things that you have to manage. The benefit of agency is usually they're top of their game. They're very creative. They're running across lots of different brands. So they kind of learn things that they can bring across from other industries. So there's some advantage there. But the hybrid thing is really interesting. The worst thing you can do is use an agency for resource. And what I mean by that is using an agency to produce business as usual, to post, to schedule, to do all the more administrative tasks of social is possibly the most expensive way of doing it. It's a kind of like having somebody in to do your ironing. The reality is it's a right pain, but it's so expensive to get someone in to do it in your house or do your washing up or whatever it is. It's much more cost effective to do that yourself, but you might get someone to do the gardening, for instance. So the same kind of principle applies. What you actually want is the creativity. What you want is the expertise. What you want is the strategic thinking. What you want are people who just live and breathe the algorithms on LinkedIn or Facebook or Insta. You want people whose sole job is to look up and look across how to bring value and impact to your business. That's what an agency does. If you hire an agency just for £400 a week to put 6 posts out, you're wasting £400 a week. Let me tell you that. So Matt on Facebook Messenger says, we started running he's jumped around. Hold on a second. We started running a paid marketing campaign, but I'm not sure how to separate these results from organic measurements. New users from paid bring in others via word of mouth, so not sure where to draw the line. Difficult for me to answer that, actually, Matt, without looking at the data as to how you've set it up. It's how you plan it in the first place, and then what results matter to you, not what matters to, so-and-so over here on that website. What matters to you? So how are we doing for time? So I've got about 3 or 4 minutes. Really interesting poll results. So let me pull out the poll results before I see if I can answer another question. So as a business, we asked you, which social media platform do you use the most? 40% of you said Facebook. So that's definitely the biggest business platform. And actually, it's really interesting because it's also the one that this year has delivered the most amount of results according to insights and data. 25% of you said Instagram. Again, Instagram is also where it's at. And 15% of you said LinkedIn. So that's potentially B2B, are those focused on professional services. And LinkedIn paid is quite pricey, but so think carefully how you use it. And 20% said other, which I suspect is anything between Snap and TikTok and blah. And yes, TikTok is racing up the charts, but not always a fit for every single thing that you're doing. So again, think strategically. So I've got a couple of minutes, so I'm going to try and answer Deborah's question. I've noticed that content that performs the best on social media is either entertaining or inspiring. Deborah, you're spot on. But what if your business, products or services don't fall into this category? How can businesses cut through but still create relevant content? So entertaining doesn't need to be funny. Inspiring doesn't need to have a celebrity. The reality is, understand your audience. Ask, as I said right at the beginning, the why. It's quite nice wrapping up with this. Ask yourself why this matters to your audience, and then think about how you will grab attention. Because even in the really difficult world, of B2B, job boards or these really industries that you wouldn't think are inspiring, you need to create interest. I mean, I've worked for car insurance, budget car insurance, for instance, we've helped them out. And what we're able to do is look at what was quite funny about insurance, what's silly about insurance, based on the principle that insurance and getting your insurance is quite a boring exercise, and most people hate doing it. So we found that why are people buying insurance? Well, we know why they're buying insurance, but what is the intent? What is the shopper mission? What is it that ticks them over? And what we found out is that people really hate, they see it as a very pragmatic thing that they have to do. They don't want to look at the policy, but what they also want to do is make that a quick process. So what we did was have fun with the quick. So it's about finding that angle. We call it the content tilt, Deborah, and I promise you 50% of the people I work with or the brands we work with Immediate Future are B2B. So we're quite used to finding the thing that matters. For instance, our work with Fujitsu, what's interesting and inspiring is often interviews with B2B influencers or people who are talking about the latest AI. That's the inspiring. So without knowing your business, a bit difficult for me to work that one out, but you can always ping me on LinkedIn or social media. I'm on all of the channels. So I'm going to have to call it. We're already at 9 o'clock. So thank you all for tuning in today. If you want to contact me, you can send me a DM on LinkedIn. You can just connect to me on LinkedIn. I'm also at Twitter. I'm at Katy Howell for all of those. If you search me, you can't miss me. And you can always tell it's me by my pink hair. So, and you can go visit our website, which is immediatefuture.co.uk. Coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is accountant QuickBooks Pro Advisor and founder of Bothix, Aaron Patrick. Tune in to get advice on accounting and the latest features and tools that will make your bookkeeping a lot easier. A reminder that if you need more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. And as I said last time, those accountants are there day and night. Poor things. Really enjoyed answering the questions this morning. Have a great day and ping me afterwards. I will try and get to anybody who we didn't manage to get to today. Thank you.